Hey friends, happy Friday. It's Ellen. I'm with Wild Birds Unlimited in Joliet. And on Fridays we go live to tell you what's new, what's happening in the store, what's also happening out in nature. And if you haven't figured out by the little description for today's video, we're talking all about nesting season because believe it or not, in our area, March is really the start of nesting season and it goes all the way through the summer, basically August. So it's a big thing that's coming up now, and this is really where birds are starting to behave a little bit differently. You may have noticed some of the behavior changes already happening right in your own yard. For example, you might have noticed that your cardinals, especially those males, aren't being so friendly with other males in the area. We're actually seeing that behavior here at the store. The males are driving each other away from the area because they are claiming territory. So in nesting season, it's a different behavior set than what you see in winter. In winter, we've seen those cardinal flocks where there's several of them together hanging out at the feeders. Not anymore. Nesting season is a whole different ball game. They're not playing so nice anymore because nesting season is serious business. So they have a lot of work to do in a small amount of time, and it all has to do with how their genes are going to be spread. Are their young going to make it, or are they not? And really, we have play a kind of a big role in how they fare or not fare. So let's get to it. Let's jump into it. And before we get into our main topic tonight, I want to share just quickly with you some of the events that we have coming up real quick here this weekend. Tomorrow, Saturday, March 7th, we have two awesome events. The first one is Grace's Gnomes Pop-Up Shop. Grace is a young woman who has Down syndrome, but she has an incredible talent for making these crafts. She makes these beautiful, super cute gnomes, decorative gnomes. And of course, it gives her a task, a role, a purpose in life, but also it allows her to do charity work and all sorts of things that have opened up doors for her just with her small little business. So we are bringing her back. She's so excited to come back, and we are excited to have her back, and she will have some bird themed gnomes for us for spring, so it's really exciting. If you had a chance to see some of her sneak peek items, you know what greatness you are in to have in store. She will be here tomorrow from 10 to 2 p.m. so we hope you join us for then. Also happening tomorrow is our Cash for Trash event. How this works and what it all is we are collecting our plastic seed bags, and the empty ones, not the ones that are full of seed. We just want your empty ones, the ones that you probably would normally throw out in the garbage. We are taking those in, and we are rewarding you up to $5 on Bird Bucks for those recycled bags. So how it works, you bring in your recycled bags, your plastic bags, and for every bag you bring in, we'll give you up to $1 bird buck, up to $5. So if you bring in 3 bags, you'll get $3 on bird bucks that you can use towards that purchase today or another time in the near future. Or let's say you bring in 20 bags, still going to offer you $5 in bird bucks, and you'll know that your bags are going to be recycled. What do we do with this recycling, all this massive trash that we're getting? Well, so I have been lucky enough to partner with the Wilmington Park District, who is doing a Trex challenge, a recycling challenge. They are collecting recyclable plastic and weighing it and kind of recording that information, and they are going to earn a bench or benches for all the plastic that they've collected. So that's what Cash for Trash events do, is they allow me to host these events and collect a great deal of plastic and provide a place for it all to go. So on every day, we do collect your plastic bags. So if you come in and you want to bring it in outside of the Cash for Trash event, just know that your plastics are going to be recycled at a facility that takes that plastics. Typically, in your normal pickup, the recycled that takes that normal recycling from your house does not actually take the number 7 plastic that our seed bags are. So as a result, we do offer free collection here at the store every day of the week that we are here at the store. Just know that we only offer Bird Buck fun receivings during our Cash for Trash event. If you have any questions, just feel free to give us a call or send us an email, and we'll be happy to clarify anything or answer any of your questions. But it's a really great event, and I know everyone looks forward to it. And of course, we're going to share some other ways that you can be sustainable and live reduced or eliminate plastics in your life completely to help save the songbirds. Also happening, coming up next Monday, the 9th, is our first spring bird outing. So we start moving our bird outings to 9 o'clock starting next Monday. So we hope you can join us. We're still meeting at the Rock Run Preserve at the Black Road Access. We meet in the parking circle. So just come, bring your binoculars, dress for the weather, and we're going to be out and about searching for early migrating visitors and, of course, our local flocks. So it should be a fun time. If you want to know what else is coming up soon, because I am going to talk about one other event that's coming up, but if you would like to see all of our events that is currently scheduled, they're all on our website and on Facebook. So the next event and the last one I'm going to talk about tonight is our Wings and Talons program on March 14th. That is a Saturday. They're coming from 11 to 2 p.m. So Wings and Talons is one of our great organizations that we partner with to offer education programs and events that include bird ambassadors. So this is one of our Birds of Prey ambassadors. They're going to be bringing at least one owl and one other bird to surprise us. So we'll find out what those exact birds are on March 14th. But we're also hosting a donation collection to help support Wings and Talons. They have generously given us a wish list of items. It's not huge, mostly has sponges and paper towels and some cleaning supplies on there, a couple toys and things that they use for enrichment opportunities with their birds, right? But we are offering this donation collection from Monday, March 9th, that is next Monday, all the way through the 14th. So you can bring in these items, bring in monetary donations, but everything that you give is 100% donated directly to Wings and Talons, and it 100% helps them care for the support of their birds. Now, their birds are totally unreleasable. So they get them because they were taken in and tried to rehabilitate them, but they are unreleasable. So their injuries are lifelong. And without groups like Wings and Talons, these birds would actually be no longer with us. So we are really excited that Wings and Talons has stepped up to the plate to help these wonderful birds and allowed us kind of a sneak peek insight view of how these birds are so incredible. So they come and go into various libraries and schools and organizations and Wild Birds Unlimited to kind of share education on these beautiful birds. So that's what that's all about. If you would like more information, again, it's all on our website or on Facebook, and you can see all the details there. All right. Now, I want to get into some of the new things that we have going on and other things that we have going on in the store. Don't forget, till the 15th of this month, we have an in-store and online promotion. It's $10 off of a $75 purchase or more. So you can use it as many times as you like. You don't have to just use it one time. You can use it as many times as you like within the through the 15th. So please use that. Also, it's our last call for Winter Super Blend. We're down to, I believe, 2 bags of loose seed and a couple of these seed cylinders. It's the last of the last until we have it back at the end of the year, close to fall, when Winter Blend will come back and return. So if you like it and your birds have loved it, it's definitely worth your while to grab a couple of these. You can always stick them in the freezer to keep them fresh and ready to rock whenever you need it next. So that's that. New things that have come in. I have a couple new things I want to show you. We have some new balloon spinners that have come in, and the one that we have is up hanging up in the ceiling, so I want to show you the images that we have real quick. But these new balloon spinners are made from the same company that has our nice new bird spinners that I'm sure you've seen out front of our store or on Facebook. But they are really, really pretty. They're the nice ones, made really, really nice. This one has all cardinals on it. Male, female, both male and female, all seasons. And then the other one that we have is also super cool. I call it the all birds because it has almost every single bird that you could think of on here, or at least the top backyard bird favorites. Cardinal, blue jay, chickadee, female cardinal, goldfinch, and robin. So fun way to welcome spring into your yards by putting in some new spring decor and make it all happy and beautiful. Another thing that has come in, and I thought it was a great way to segue into our main topic tonight, is our seed houses have returned. So these guys are super cute. Yes, there is a real birdhouse underneath this beautiful seed. It is a wooden house, and the seed is glued, not real glue, is attached to the house. But once they eat the seed, you have a cute little birdhouse that potentially they could use. They're a little small for most of our species, but they look really cute, make really cute Easter basket additions, or just a fun little gift to give to someone that you know loves birds and loves spring and nesting season. So super cute options. They're here for a limited time only, so stop in and grab them while you can. All right? And while we're talking about nesting houses, nest boxes, that is exactly what our topic is tonight. We are talking all about how to meet your bird's nesting needs and how to do that. What does that all involve? So if you are like me and cleaned out your nest boxes at the end of last year's season, you have kind of an easier job. Right? So most of the time you're going to go to your nest box that's been outside all winter. You're going to open it up. You're going to open up your nest box. On this one, there's a couple different ways that we can open it. But one way is on this side, and the other way on this house is from the top, where potentially you're going to monitor your nest peeking in like that way. But you're going to open up your nest box, whichever way, however it looks to you in your nest box, and you're going to clean out any debris that may be in here. Now maybe it has debris in there from the last season and last nesting season, which is a thing. It's okay if you didn't have time or weren't able to clean out your nest box from the end of the season last year. If that's the case, what you're going to do is you're going to stand downwind. So if the wind is coming at you, you're going to stand on the opposite side so that when you pull out the debris, it's not going to go right back into your face. All right, so stand downwind, and you're going to remove any debris that's in there from last season. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to clean it out. That requires a couple different tools. I highly recommend using rubber gloves or any kind of plastic glove, some type of gloves. Use some gloves. You're also going to want to get some dish detergent, water, and maybe even make a bleach solution with water and bleach, and so you can clean it out. I like to use a couple of different brushes. I like to use my bird bath brush. I love this brush. I have like probably 10 of them. They're so versatile and I love to use them. But also we have some other kinds of different size brushes that potentially could use. You could also just use a sponge or some other kind of cloth to wipe out in there. The purpose of this step is just to clean it and sanitize it from any of the contaminants, bacteria, pests, such as mites, that might be in the box from a previous nesting season. All right, or even over winter, as birds might have used it for a roosting box. Now, birds are not the cleanest of creatures, so that's why sometimes you have some fecal matter, and you might have some other things going on here, so it's best to give it a nice clean out. We do offer this other product that is also very good. It's good for cleaning out birdhouses or feeder cleanings. makes it so nice and what's great about it is that it's made with natural enzymes from plants, trace minerals, and water enhancing agents. So really natural product. This does not require actually rinsing it out. Whereas the method I just told you, it does. So you got to make sure that you have something that you're able to rinse out the house. So I sometimes like to uninstall my box. Maybe it's on a pole, and I'm going to take it off the pole and bring it in to clean so I can clean it really well, or at least bring it down so I can get some water in it and clean it out really well. If that's not the case and you are physically unable to, that's okay too. Just make sure that you're able to clean it out properly, and you can still maintain it in a proper fashion, okay? So once that is all done, you've got it all clean and spick and span, the next thing I like to do with any of my nest boxes is look for any repairs that may need to be done. So luckily this box that I'm holding is actually an Eco-Tough box, which means it's made actually out of recycled milk jugs. So this plastic material is often a very heavy duty. It works and it fades, doesn't fade very fast. It doesn't rot and splinter like some of our wooden boxes do, but it does sometimes have some damages that happen. Now, wooden boxes aren't less good. They're just as equally as good, but sometimes we find, even with our Eco-Tough boxes, that one of the majority of the things that happens maintenance-wise, that repairs that are needed, have to do with around this porthole. So this entrance hole oftentimes gets enlarged, and it can get enlarged a number of ways. Sometimes it's a curious bird, sometimes it's a curious critter that has tried to enlarge the hole in order to get inside. That's where these port protectors come in handy. So these guys are made out of copper, usually some kind of metal, and what they are designed to do is to go and protect that port. Okay, it protects that entry cover hole. So what you're going to do is, of course, you're going to want to pick a protector that is designed for the type of house that you are trying to hold, the type of home, the type of bird that you are trying to attract. So for example, this birdhouse right here that I'm holding in my hand is for a wren. And I can tell that mostly by the size diameter of this hole. The smaller the hole, the smaller the bird that can go inside. Alternatively, the larger the hole, the larger the bird that is able to get in. So this one, which is an eastern bluebird box, which also could house tree swallows and other kinds of swallows, this size is perfect for bluebirds and swallows. Of course, birds that are smaller, such as your chickadees, nuthatches, woodpeckers, and even the little wren could potentially use this box because the hole is large enough to allow all those different size birds in. Now, if I had some damage, of course, on here, putting this port guard on that hole is going to maintain the hole size to the size I desire. It may also help cover some of the unsightly damage that has been caused by critters and such. But let's say we're talking about my wren house. Bring that wren house over. And in this wren house, let's say they open it up pretty big. And we want to get it back to wren size. So I'm going to, of course, use my wren size hole port cover. And I'm going to put it on here. Now, of course, there's screws and all those little hardwares all included. So you're just going to put it up there, line up that hole accordingly, and then attach it. This is going to do two things. It's going to keep it the size hole that we desire to house the birds that we're trying to get in. The other thing it's going to do is it's going to protect the house from future damage around this port hole. Okay? So whenever we're choosing houses, because oftentimes I get asked this question, what house do I get? They're all so beautiful and different kinds and whatnot. The question is not what type of beautiful house do you want, but rather ask yourself, what type of birds are you wanting to attract and to have a nest in your yard? That is truly going to be determining what type of house I'm going to steer you towards. So of course we have a number of different beautiful houses that fit a variety of different birds' needs based on the size of the house, and of course that porthole, entrance hole is going to determine the type and sizes of birds that can enter the box to begin with. All right, let me know if you have any other questions. I'm here to answer your questions tonight, all right? Good to see we're seeing so many beautiful things. Thank you guys so much for watching tonight. All right, let's keep going on with it. So when it comes to houses and when we're going to maybe put in a new house, there's a couple different ways that this happens. Sometimes we are replacing a house that a nest box, a bird house that has been damaged severely. Maybe wooden components are starting to really rot away, and the integrity of the box itself, the house itself, is now compromised. Now is a good time to get a new one, because at some stages there is just too much damage to salvage the house that we already have. There's too much damage. It's just best to start fresh. Okay, now if there's some slight damage, we can fix some of those things. You probably can fix some of those things too. But if it's extensive, my recommendation is going to be to start new. Now, the other potentially option and scenario could be that you are just trying to expand the amount of houses available in your yard so that you can attract more nesting birds and have more generations of birds to watch for years to come. So, which is either way, it's a great option to always offer new nest boxes. When people are always asking me, well, what makes a good nest box, okay? And there's a couple things. Let's just get to it. There's a couple things that go into good elements of a good nest box. Here are my top ones, okay? This is another Eco Tough boxes. This is one of our Wren Eco Tough boxes, so really nice. I do really like this box because there's a couple different ways to clean it out. You can have a entrance here too on the top so that you can peek in on your brood as they are growing, but that doesn't necessarily make or break the box, okay? Having different entering poles or access points on a house doesn't make or break the box, but here's what does for me. Okay, number one is having drainage holes at the bottom of the box. So sometimes they're not quite right at the bottom. Sometimes there's only two. It doesn't matter as long as there's some drainage here. Okay, if there's water gets in here, that it has a way to seep out the bottom. Okay, the other thing I really recommend that every nest box has is, and hopefully I can get the angle so you can see it, that every nest box needs to have some ventilation at the top. So this one right here has it at this roof. I'm going to show you this one too, because I know this one has a really good angle. See, all of these have some ventilation at the top. Now we know nesting season is oftentimes in the summer, and the summer can get hot. So we want to make sure it has some breathing holes so we don't cook our little chickies in here, and we're going to keep them safe and secured by the house that we attain for them. The other thing I recommend is that it has at least one hole for a clean out. And what I mean by clean out is, so on this Eco Tough one, I would say the best clean out is the side compartment, because it's easy to access the main compartment and clean out the debris. But maybe it's not exactly like that. For example, on these beautiful Nature Creations birdhouses, which are beautifully decorative and functional, because they have, see the ventilation that it has up there and all that good stuff. It also has a clean out. Every good nest box, at minimum, has a clean out. If you have a nest box in your yard and you know it doesn't have a clean out, it may be time to look for a new nest box is that eventually your box will get so full that one, it's either unsafe for the birds that are trying to make a nest in here, or the chicks will be unsafe because they will be too high up and could be an easy prey for a predator that might be looking for either eggs or young chicks to prey on. So keep your chicks and your new family safe by keeping a box that has a clean out, so you can keep that nest box at a low, not so full, and that the birds stay safe in there. And then the other thing that's also equally as important, and I hope I can find one that will be good to share, because sometimes they get a little tricky and they're not as easy. But another really good thing to have in your nest box is I hope you can see it. Oop. Let's try that again. I don't know if we're going to be able to do this one. Let me see. We have a couple of these. You might have to come in and see it, because I think my angle of my video, I'm just too dark in this corner. But the next thing that you want to make sure that your box has, and I highly recommend it, especially for bluebird boxes, but most of them will have either a grooved, lined, or netted front on the inside. So, and what that is actually a fledgling ladder. So the little baby birds will use that rough grooved or mesh lined inside plank, and they'll climb up it to get out and fledge the nest, if you will. So those are my top 4 key elements of a properly a really good nest box. If you really want to have the best success for you and for your birds, those are the 4 elements I really highly recommend. I know I have one. I wonder if this one we could see a little bit better, because it's a shorter box. Oh, I bet you can. It's still a little dark. See if we can see it from this way. Ah, here we go. See those grooves, those lines here? They're actually grooves that the little baby birds will use to climb up to get out to that hole and be able to fledge out. So it's a really cool thing. Look at your box next time. See if they have those lines, and if not, you can physically create them yourself too, if you don't have that on your nest box. All right, now that you've decided on the perfect nest box for your house, you've decided the perfect house for the perfect birds that you are trying to attract, and it has all the elements that make an excellent home for your birds. Now is the question of where to place it. Okay, so I often get asked this question quite a lot of times, and some people have it in their mind that, oh, I'm going to place it right across from my bird feeder, because then I can see it right out my window. And I actually would recommend against that. And not so much that it's horrible to be able to watch the baby birds, or as mom and dad come back to the nest box to feed the young, but it's just that we want to, when we're placing nest boxes, we want to be mindful of what makes a great area to raise a family. So oftentimes you often ask, when you ask me this question, I often ask, well, when you are raising your family, what made a good home to raise your own children? And the biggest one is we want to minimize traffic. So if you're placing your nest box right next to your feeder, the birds might think that's a little bit unsafe, because your feeder is attracting a lot of new characters, different characters, some that are more aggressive than others, but it brings in a lot of foot traffic around where they're trying to raise their new babies. Okay, so I oftentimes relate this to putting a nest box by your feeder. Is kind of like trying to raise your baby at a gas station. It's not the best option. It can be an option, but it's probably not the best option just because we have a lot of traffic going on there. I would highly recommend that any nest box is placed at least 15, if not 20 feet away from your feeders or your bird baths. That's going to be able to be probably the places where there's the least amount of traffic in your backyard or in your front yard. Okay. The other thing I would recommend is placing the box so that the hole faces away from prevailing winds. So if the winds are coming strong head on, we want to make sure that we face it away so that when the winds come head on, it's going to hit the side of the house and not go straight in and give those little babies a chill. So we want to keep them nice and warm, all right, and protected. The other thing I would highly recommend with nest boxes, especially those that don't have a string like this one or my other bluebird box, it doesn't have a hanger. So this kind of house is best to be mounted on a pole. Okay, and that pole, like our advanced pole system, the same one similar to what you have your feeders on, we have one that has a mounting kit. So you can actually physically mount it on from the bottom or the side of your house, depending on your bird house, and put it on a pole. And the reason for this, whether or not it has a hanger or not, I still recommend most birdhouses to be on poles. And the reason for that is so that we can protect the house and the young inside, the new family, from predators by putting a predator guard on our pole, such as a raccoon or a squirrel baffle. That will keep those critters from, or even snakes even, from getting up the pole and going into your nest box. All right, so it's best on a pole, but what if that isn't an option in your yard? Sometimes hanging is the only way to go, and that's okay too. Here's my recommendation when we're hanging birdhouses in your yard. Make sure that the height of the birdhouse is at least 5 feet high. All right, anything lower than 5 feet, it's kind of the danger zone. Between cats and other critters around, a little nest box hanging really low to the ground is actually kind of waving the dinner bell, okay? You don't want to attract unnecessary critters and other animals that are going to investigate and maybe check out and possibly disturb your new family. So keep them safe by keeping them at least 5 feet high. The other thing I highly recommend if you're hanging it, make sure it's secured very well on a nice branch or a hook of some sort. Make sure it's okay if it swings in the wind, okay? That's okay. What I'm saying is that the branch, the thing that you're physically hanging it on it, this thing has to be very sturdy to hold the weight of the nest box. Okay, we wouldn't want a nice family of wrens to move in here, lay eggs, hatch those eggs, defend that territory, start feeding all those babies and do all that work only for the branch to break because it was just not a very heavy duty branch. And those babies are now, those chicks, those newly hatched chicks are now on the ground. And they are really, in a very vulnerable place. Okay, if that does happen, you pick up the nest box and re-hook it back on there. It is a wives' tale that if you pick up babies that have fallen out of the nest, or pick up the nest box, or hold and work the nest box and monitor the nest box, that the moms or dads are going to abandon the babies. They will not. Nesting season is a vigorous task for birds. They have put so much time and energy into finding a nesting location, making a nest, making eggs, raising those, incubating the nest, raising the hatchlings, to just say, oh, it smells like Ellen, I'm walking away. No, they're not. They are going to raise those babies as much as they can. Mom and dad will watch what you do, and hopefully they see what great parents and hosts you are, and they will come back and do it again and again for generations to come. Okay, the best that we can do. Now, you may be wondering, when's the best time to put up a nest box? Let me tell you, now is the time. Okay, really again, nesting goes from, in our area, about March through August. And we want to have most of our nest boxes up and ready to rock by the end of March. Okay, because at this time, birds are heavily looking for houses. Now, not all birds use a nest box. The nest boxes, bird houses are all for birds that make a cavity, right? They would have use a cavity in a tree to raise their young. Some birds make a cup nest out in nature, such as in a tree or in a shrub, and they raise their young in that kind of thing. Birds that use a nest box are going to be your wrens, your chickadees, your nuthatches, your woodpeckers, your bluebirds, your tree swallows. Those type of birds use nest boxes. There are several of them, but again, we can help them out greatly by offering more safe spots to raise a family in. So do your due diligence, okay? The last thing I want to mention about there's two things I want to mention, okay? The one is that if you're putting out a new nest box right now this year, don't be discouraged if birds don't use it right away. It may be a season or two before they come and investigate it. It just kind of depends on a couple factors. Sometimes it's the location of the box altogether. Maybe you put it too close to your bird feeder or your bird bath. Or perhaps maybe you put it out a little later in the nesting season and they already had chosen their house for the year. And that's okay, because sometimes birds will use a nest box for one brood, and then they'll go across the yard and use another nest box for a second brood, so they'll have 2 rounds of babies in one season. So the more houses you put up, the more chances you have of raising young in your own yard this season, okay? The last thing I want to mention is the topic of invasive birds with nesting. And the 2 birds I'm mainly talking about are your European starlings and your house sparrows. House sparrows are tricky, whereas starlings are, it's kind of easy to deter them from using houses just simply by making the hole smaller. Of course, if we are using an eastern bluebird house like this, with that large hole, yes, it's going to be enticing for your bluebirds and your swallows. It's also enticing for your starlings. Making that hole smaller is going to deter the starlings, but of course, remember, it's also going to deter your bluebirds and your swallows because they can't enter a hole this small. So be mindful of that. So one way we can deter starlings from nesting in your yard is simply using a box with a smaller hole. Starling sparrows, on the other hand, are a little bit more tricky. They can get in smaller diameter holes, but they cannot get in to the 1-inch port, which is the size of a wren. Okay, that wren hole is too small for the house sparrows. Excuse me. So if you have a lot of house sparrows in your yard and you've been seeing them unfortunately use your nest boxes where other birds like chickadees and wrens could possibly move in instead, I highly recommend maybe switching out to just wren sized porthole. Yes, you're only going to attract wrens to those houses, but honestly, it'd be better to offer a house to a native bird who truly needs the housing than a sparrow who could literally make a nest anywhere and are non-native and invasive and harm native birds and give them our native birds less of a chance of survival. The other cool thing that we have gotten in this year is we have a few sparrow-resistant houses. I'm going to show you to them right now. This is a sparrow-resistant house. And yes, you may be thinking, that looks weird. It sure is. So this opening is not very attractive to your house sparrows, but it is very attractive to other native birds like your eastern bluebirds. So this is one example of our houses that have a, this is how you open it up from the front, whereas normally it's from the bottom. This is how we're opening up. And look at that. It shows that mesh net right here so that fledglings can use it. These little platforms here is so it raises the nest box, the nest up higher to keep the birds safe. This still has all the proper drainage and ventilation. You can kind of see some of those ventilation holes right up here as I'm holding it. But this box is exactly designed to eliminate the house sparrows from making a home. So this is going to not allow them, they're not going to like it as much, so they probably won't make a home in it. But you may, by putting this up, find yourself a new landlord of an eastern bluebird or a tree swallow. Wouldn't that be cool? For other tips on ways to combat non-native species of birds, I highly recommend you go to nestwatch.org. It's by Cornell. It's a site run by Cornell, but they really talk about a lot of information on how to manage non-native birds in nest boxes. It will also give you ideas on other placements of boxes. It gives you specs if you want to make your own nest box. Lots of good information on nesting season on nestwatch.org. It also gives you steps on how that you can do citizen science with your nest boxes by monitoring the birds and the young that are growing and raising in your own box. So you can do that. You can be a monitor and report the data that you learn about the species of birds that are nesting in your birdhouses. So that's kind of cool too. If you would like, if you're not sure, have more questions, please come in and see us. Nesting season is such a fun time, and there's kind of a small window when it's best to put out nesting boxes and things like that. So I highly recommend you come in sooner than later so that we can help you get your nest boxes started or installed. All right. But if you would like more information or want me to elaborate on what we just talked about tonight, go on our website. Our website is joliet.wbu.com. Under the March highlights, there are a couple new articles and pages to be found. On there are two I'm going to mention that talk about specifically nesting season. The first one is nesting, talking about most of the stuff that we talked about tonight. Specs on those good nest, what makes a good nest box, placement suggestions, things like that. The other great page that I have up there right now is called Prepare for Nesting Season. And that one actually has a video of cleaning out a nest box. Okay, so if you want like some more tips and want to know exactly how that process goes down, watch that video because it'll give you every information that you need. It's really short, it's about 30 seconds long, but you can stop it and pause it where you need to so that you can write down all the information you need, or you can do it step by step by watching the video. Now, this session is actually going to be a two-parter. So tonight we talked about nest boxes. Next Friday live, we are going to be talking about nesting material. So come with your questions or type them in the comments now, and I will be sure to answer all your nesting material questions for next week. Okay, we're going to talk about those birds that do not use nest boxes. What do they use and how we can give them the best success to spring and nesting season as we can. Before I go, I want to quickly just scan the comments and make sure there's no other questions lingering here before we get off. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, again, leave them in the comments. I'm here to answer them for you. Otherwise, we'll see you next week when we talk about nesting material and how we can help our birds that don't use nesting boxes have the best success rates for nesting season this spring. All right, guys, have a great night. We'll see you. Don't forget, Cash for Trash tomorrow, and also Grace's Gnomes Pop-Up Shop from 10 to 2. We'll see you then. Have a great night. Bye now.